always trying to deceive one another, Blue River was still a loyal Team Blue Rain fan. This was something that had never changed. Team Blue Rain had been crushed by Team Samsara. In the finals, Blue River also needed some way to vent his emotions. PK war in the minds of guild leaders. Like changing spring, this was something that would only result in injury. It was best to avoid it if possible. However, in Blue River's heart, he wanted to participate in this unnecessary war. There were no schemes or planning required. All he had to do was curse at Samsara and start hacking away. As a result, Blue River was very eager to fight. His original reason for taking up heavy responsibilities in the guild was to support Team Blue Rain, but he had since become tired of such work. Fighting mindlessly was an activity that he happily welcomed. He didn't need to consider things from a long-term perspective. He didn't need to consider the guild's interests when he fought like this. He didn't need to think about whether this was good or bad for the team. By releasing his pent-up emotions, he could show his passionate support for the team path, and from their group chat, he knew that Samsara's elite group was doing the same on the other side of the battlefield. Blue River impatiently wanted to fight them, but in his heart, he knew that the guild wouldn't allow for such a confrontation to happen. The much more dedicated Changing Spring kept his rationale. He set an example as the leader of the guild, while avoiding real confrontations to preserve the guild's strength. Samsara clearly had the same thoughts. Blue River didn't know whether Changing Spring had kept in contact with Samsara's 3 Realm 6 paths. In any case, the elite groups of the two guilds seemed to not know that the other existed, and focused on exerting all their strength to bully the normal members of the opposing guild. How boring, Blue River thought to himself. Once one became a core elite member of the guild, could that still be considered as playing the game anymore? Truthfully, Blue River felt like he had been bound because of his support for the team. If he didn't do these tasks, it felt like he wasn't doing enough to support his team. Blue River's support for the team had never changed, but he really didn't like that feeling. I'm not suitable for playing in a guild. Blue River was killing Samsara fans to vent his anger, while sighing to himself in sorrow. At this moment, he saw Lord Grimm's group chasing someone. Their target just happened to pass him. Blue River saw that he wasn't from Blue Brook Guild, so he attacked him. Lord Grimm soon caught up, ended that person's life, and picked up all the equipment that dropped. This scene made Blue River speechless. Not white. Remember this name, Yishu said to Tang Ru and Steamed Bun. Blue River's Blue Bridge. Spring snow hadn't even left yet. He shuddered when he heard these words. How did this guy manage to offend God Yichu? Because he was scrap picking. What a deep grudge. They were going to imprint his name into their minds just because of that. Yishu also messaged the 4 allied guild leaders to help him take note of this character. When he turned around, he saw that Blue Bridge Spring Snow was still standing there. Blue Bridge Spring Snow was currently located in the midst of the Blue Brook Guild elite groups. Quite a few Blue Brook Guild players noticed Lord Grimm, including their guild leader, Changing Spring. What's he doing here? Changing Spring began to feel fearful. For Changing Spring, nothing ever good happened whenever Lord Grimm appeared. Seeing Blue Bridge Spring Snow talking with that guy, Changing Spring didn't hesitate to ask Blue River. He's just here to scrap pick. Blue River replied to his guild leader. Scrap pick. Quite a few people were waiting for an answer, most of which were experts like Ice of Dawn and Chilling Nightfall. They were like their guild leader. Whenever they saw Lord Grimm's name, the first thought that came to mind was not good. As for what was not good, wasn't that being asked right now, but this answer made them think deeply. How would scrap picking affect their guild? Blue Brook Guild clearly had a bad impression of Yi Shu. In any case, whenever they saw him, they were certain that he was up to no good. As for how exactly this was bad for them, they needed to go find out. Scrap pick. At this moment, a witness, who saw that scene, began speaking. How is that scrap picking? Isn't he just stealing? This witness quickly described the scene that he had just seen. F***CK. All of the experts were alarmed. He wasn't picking up scraps, but directly stealing instead. The old experts with top quality equipment immediately became uneasy. How could they be opponents for God Yichu, who could actually stop him? It's just 3 people, they can't be looking to attack us, can they? Someone said. We can't be careless, Changing Spring said in a solemn voice. There were 200 elite players who could be considered peak experts of the heavenly domain, facing Yishu's group of 3, yet they were the ones who were actually worried. They felt that their worries were completely deserved too. They weren't ashamed at all. Blue Brook Guild had been completely eaten up by the shadow in their hearts. But after Yishu spoke to Blue River for a bit, the 3 characters left. Everyone in Blue Brook Guild heaved sighs of relief, but they soon discovered that he hadn't gone far. Of course Yishu's group wouldn't go far. They were here to pick up scraps. Blue Brook Guild's elite group swept away everything in their path, killing people and littering the floor with equipment. Of course, scrap pickers would hang around nearby. However, most scrap pickers picked up equipment when the other side wasn't paying attention. They would rush over to pick up the equipment, run, and perhaps die. No one was as arrogant as Yishu's group. They just calmly followed the elite group from a short distance away. They didn't think that their movements would put Blue Brook Guild under a huge amount of pressure. He still hasn't left. He still hasn't left. Why isn't he leaving? Blue Brook Guild would fight for a bit and then turn around to check. All they saw was Lord Grimm's group following them closely, which added to their fluster. Everyone was worried that the other side had targeted them. The other side was probably waiting for them to get low before attacking, right? As a result, the healers were very busy. Everyone was shouting, heal, heal, heal. But when the healers went to heal, what was there to heal? There had only health dropped 5% and they were crying for their life. What was wrong with them? What's going on? Why has Blue Brook Guild suddenly slowed down? Yishu had no idea what was happening, so he criticized them for being so slow. Little did he know that it was because of him. It's over. They've definitely locked onto us. Look, they're even following us wherever we go. Blue Brook Guild's elite group kept on killing, but those 3 kept following them like ghosts. This was similar to the saying, death is nothing to be afraid of. Waiting for death to arrive was what was scary. Right now, Blue Brook Guild's elite group felt like they were waiting for death to arrive. Why are they bullying us? Changing Spring couldn't bear it. He had to endure a lot over these past 2 days. He was Blue Brook Guild's leader and a huge fan of Team Blue Rain. How could he be happy seeing Team Blue Rain lose so tragically? He wanted to let out his emotions too, but he had to control himself. He had to consider things from a management perspective and couldn't give in to his heart's desires. After all, he wasn't purely a fan anymore. Changing Spring couldn't bear having Lord Grimm's group of 3 following them around like ghosts. Isn't he just a god? What's there to be afraid of? It's just 3 people. We have 200. Why should we be afraid of you? Everyone, up. Changing Spring gritted his teeth and gave the order. Many of the people in the guild were still afraid, but with the order given, they had to follow the order as the elite group, even if they were afraid. As a result, Blue Brook Guild's players turned around and charged at Yishu's group. Huh, what's this? Yishu stared blankly. Why was Blue Brook Guild suddenly charging at them? What were they trying to do? Careful, Yishu had his suspicions about the other side's intentions, but he couldn't understand why. Yishu thought the process was a bit wrong. He thought that he was scrap picking like everyone else. But who scrap picked with such high profile? This type of scrap picking put Blue Brook Guild under a lot of pressure. Bang! When Blue Brook Guild's first attack came out, their intentions were completely exposed.
Madam
What?
President.
Angru was puzzled, but she was excited. Hearing this girl didn't like to scrap pick, but a fight was good. Blue Brook Guild's players, equipment, and skill were all at the top of the game. They could be considered as powerful opponents. Tangru really wanted to fight them to see how much she had progressed. Hurry up and run. But instead, she heard Yishu order for a retreat. Tangru didn't have the experience to examine the other side's strength, but Yishu did though. 3 people against 200 elites was impossible. Breaking through an encirclement or accomplishing Some other purpose was still possible, but a fight too. The death wasn't. Let's just fight for a bit. Tang Ru didn't want to leave. Yi Shu thought about it again. Right, fighting shouldn't be a problem. At worst, they would die and lose some of the equipment they had picked up and some experience. Their opponents were all experts in the game. They would be good practice targets. After thinking about it, Yi Shu replied, then you guys go and fight. I'll transport your equipment. Hurry up and trade with me. Blue Brook Guild was closing in. Yi Shu's group ran. While completing the trade, the two gave the equipment on themselves and the ones in their inventory to Lord Grimm. Okay, go ahead. Good luck, Yi Shu encouraged them. He felt a bit distracted too. This sort of feeling was like sending his team members off onto the stage. Senior, you go ahead first. We'll protect you. Steam Bun shouted heroically. As expected, he had the completely wrong idea. Yi Shu didn't try to explain to him. His Lord Grimm continued to run away. Soft mist and steam. Bun Invasion turned around after completing the trades and charged resolutely towards Blue Brook Guild's 200 players. "692 Did I scare you guys?" Lord Grimm's group looked as if they were planning to run, which allowed Blue Brook Guild feel more at ease. Blue Brook Guild wasn't dead set on killing them, so forcing them to run away was good enough. Who would have thought that their moment of ease wouldn't even last 5 seconds? After running for a bit, Soft Mist and Steam Bun Invasion suddenly turned around and charged at them. As for Lord Grimm, he simply glanced at them for a brief second. Then, he turned tail and ran, appearing cold and indifferent towards the situation. Are we screwed? Blue Brook Guild began to panic again. In the end, Soft Mist and Steam Bun Invasion died. 2 players beating 200 wasn't even a remote possibility, especially since one of the two came looking for a fight while the other was there too. Protect Senior. They charged forward in a very direct manner without any sort of tactics. In the end, the two were swallowed up by the sea of Blue Brook Guild players. When Blue Brook Guild saw the 2 corpses, they were shocked. They looked all around them and even checked the sky too. That's it. There were no reinforcements, no ambushes, no follow-up. No trouble was brought to them. They just got killed like that. While Blue Brook Guild was at a loss, Soft Mist and Steam Bun Invasion revived at the city, waiting to meet up with Lord Grimm. Both of them had lost experience as well as a piece of equipment. These were all trivial matters though. When the 3 convened, Yi Shu laughed out loud and asked, "How was that?" "Senior, as long as you're fine, it's okay." Steam Bun still thought it had all been to protect Yi Shu. There were a bit too many opponents. Tang Ru had to admit it. Against so many opponents, no matter how skilled you were, it wouldn't be possible. When she charged over, her chasers flew around everywhere, showing their might. She was in such a frenzy that Blue Brook Guild seemed like they didn't dare to get close to her. Her battle spirit quickly reached the 7th stage, but following afterwards, they just kept their distance. Blue Brook Guild had long-range classes. All of them open-fired, and Tang Ru Soft Mist couldn't even get close to them before she died. Steam Bun Invasion was pretty much the same. He charged forward and then died soon afterwards. In the end, the two weren't even able to kill a single Blue Brook Guild player. Trying to fight against so many people in a head-on collision obviously isn't possible. In that sort of situation, you have to use everything you have. Utilizing guerrilla warfare and finding opportunities to kill them off one by one, Yi Shu said. Tang Ru nodded her head. After trying it once, she now knew that it definitely wasn't possible to beat them in a head-on fight. She didn't plan on trying again either. She didn't like losing, but that didn't mean she was stupid. Tang Ru could clearly distinguish between what was possible and what wasn't. There's a prerequisite for using this method to deal with 200 players though. They have to be willing to play with you. Yi Shu said. Originally, they were very willing to do so, but now it seems like they don't plan on concerning themselves with us anymore. Their sudden attack today was quite Unexpected. Yishu was aware of the change in attitudes from the guilds. When he had first entered the heavenly domain, they pursued him without any hesitation. But after a few tries, the thunder and rain lessened. Until it became peaceful, Yishu knew that the guilds hadn't done any negotiations or anything. Their attitudes just eventually shifted to their current one. Yishu had friended Blue Rain's character just moments ago. He sent a message over to ask what's going on with you guys. You guys kept following us. It put us under a lot of pressure. Blue River replied, nonsense. We were just there to scrap pick. If we don't follow you, who do we follow? Yishu replied, is shooing away scrap pickers anything weird? Blue River felt a bit speechless. When had scrap picking ever been something righteous? Did he not know that scrap pickers were even more annoying than flies? Why is he accusing us as if we're in the wrong? You'll regret it, Yishu said. Is that a threat? Blue River asked. No, I'm just giving you a heads up. Just wait for it, Yishu said. Blue River suddenly became a bit nervous. It wasn't a secret that God Yishu had created a four-guild alliance. Right now, Samsara and Blue Brook Guild were fighting because of the finals. The other guilds and fans weren't participating. Hearing these words from him, was he planning on bringing the four guilds into the fight to wipe them out? Was he actually planning on stealing from us? F***CK, is another calamity going to befall us? If he had known earlier, Blue River was certain the guild would let the three scrap pickers follow them and endure the pressure. Their elite group didn't want to suffer too many losses. Now they had offended someone who was about to forcefully rob from them. Blue River didn't dare delay. He immediately notified Changing Spring. When Changing Spring heard his words, he also started to panic. Their elite group only had 200 players. If the four guild alliance gathered all of their troops, they definitely wouldn't be able to resist. Even more so with someone like God Yishu leading the enemy troops. Hurry up and call for help. Changing Spring ordered. Big guilds had a huge numbers of players. Changing Spring hastily called for reinforcements. Originally, there were only two elite groups fighting. Now, there was a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way until there were 10 groups. Changing Spring still felt uneasy. Who knew how many troops the four guilds could muster? Samsara suddenly received information about Blue Brook Guild gathering a huge number of troops. They suddenly felt uneasy too. Both sides had been avoiding each other, but that was just a tacit agreement. They hadn't made any concrete agreement. Was Blue Brook Guild suddenly amassing troops to fight us? Samsara obviously felt worry. They were Blue Brook Guild's only enemy right now. We can't be careless right now. Call for reinforcements. Samsara's guild leader 3 Realms. 6 Paths hastily gave the order. Samsara started to gather troops too. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way until 10 groups were called. Something big's about to happen. Wei Chen's expression turned serious. What's wrong? Yishu asked. We've suddenly started gathering our troops together. It seems like we're planning on fighting a huge battle with Blue Brook Guild. Wei Chen may have held the title of the second elite group's leader. His rise had been abrupt. It was because of his talent that he was able to rise to the step so quickly. Samsara still didn't place too much trust in him. As a result, even though he lead an elite group, Wei Chen wasn't a core member of the guild yet. Every day, he received messages telling him what to do. As for what the purpose was, he had no idea. Is that so? How amazing. Where are you planning on fighting? We should get ready, Yishu said. The guild elites had been avoiding each other, leading to worse profits compared to the last few days. Now that a huge battle was about to erupt, Yishu wanted to seize this opportunity. I don't know yet. I'm still waiting for orders. Wei Chen said. Really? Then should I ask Blue Brook Guild? Yishu said. You can do that. Then go ask. Wei Chen was surprised. He thought that Yishu was a devil in the guild's eyes. It was quite unexpected that he could get his hand on such important information from the higher-ups of the guild. As he said this, he went over to look at who Yishu was messaging. What's going on? You're about to start a huge battle with Samsara, Yishu asked. Blue River's Blue Bridge. Spring snow. What? Blue River was puzzled. What? You don't know. Samsaras started gathering their troops, Yishu said. What? Blue River jumped up in fright. He immediately informed Changing Spring. Changing Spring already knew. Yes, I already got the news. Samsaras gathered around 10 groups together. They seem to be making a move. What are they trying to do? Blue Brook Guild was fervently discussing with one another. Samsara was fervently discussing this question too. This situation made Blue River feel like something wasn't right, even though he detested this sort of fight. The fight had once again come to him. After thinking about it for a bit, he suddenly thought of something. Could this be some sort of scheme that Yichu came up with? F***CK. When this came out, many people suddenly became frightened. Not only is this guy gathering troops from the 4 guilds, but he's also pulling Samsara into this. No wonder Samsara suddenly became so confident and actually started to gather troops to fight us. Blue Brook Guild's core members were discussing with each other. This is going to be difficult to deal with. *T, that B** starred. He wants to loot a burning house. Changing Spring cursed. The onlookers weren't sure if he was cursing at Yichu or Samsara. Then again, both of them should be cursed. Both of them were B** stars. This deduction had come from Blue River's guess, but Blue River felt that something still wasn't right. If this was Yichu's doing, then his message was a bit strange. It didn't seem to make any sense. Right when he was thinking, Lord Grimm messaged. Are you guys going to make a move? Make what move? Blue River asked back. Aren't you going to make a move against Samsara? What are you talking about? Blue River was becoming more and more confused. It seems like Samsara took the initiative. Yishu felt like he had grasped the situation as he told Wei Chen. The 2 big guilds have around the same level of strength. Blue Brook Guild should still be a little bit stronger though. For Samsara to take the initiative, it definitely can't be that simple. Maybe they're hiding some helpers. Wei Chen started thinking. For a huge confrontation of this scale, if any other guild was going to come and help, they would have needed to make preparations beforehand. It isn't possible for neither of them to have noticed such a gathering of troops, Yishu said. Maybe it's just us who hasn't discovered it. It's not like we have a huge information network, Wei Chen said. Who says we don't? Bro, we're in a 4 guild alliance. Don't underestimate them, Yishu said. He messaged the 4 guild leaders to ask them to take note of any movements from the other guilds. At this moment, Blue River organized all the information he had with him, especially the records of his conversations with Lord Grimm. Finally, he still felt something wasn't right and asked, could it be that you're not scheming anything? What scheme? Yishu was puzzled by Blue River's sudden question. You said you'd make us regret it. Blue River said. Oh, that was just something I said randomly. What? Did I scare you guys? Yishu asked. 693 award ceremony. Blue River wanted to die. How could he have known that someone with the status of God would bluff like a third-rate player? Blue Brook Guild had panicked at the slightest threat and made a big fuss out of nothing, since God didn't have any intention to make good on his threat. The 4 Guild Alliance and Samsara weren't anything to worry about. Why did Samsara make a move? Blue River was an experienced player. After thinking about it for a bit, he guessed. This made him feel even more ashamed. There originally hadn't been any issues. He had regarded God Yi is previously notified. Guild leader. He had known that this creates a huge misunderstanding. How? Supposed to explain this spring. In any case, he had to say what he had to say. Blue River could only muster up the courage and explain. To Changing Spring. Changing Spring felt depressed at the explanation, too, but he didn't blame Blue River. After thinking about it for a bit, if he had been in Blue River's position and God Yi Chu said something like that, he would have also been nervous like Blue River. Now that they discovered that it was all a misunderstanding, from this point of view, it was Samsara who had reacted to their movements. Blue Brook Guild should hurry and disperse their teams to prevent Samsara from taking the initiative and attacking them. After winning the championships, Samsara must certainly be very excited. Who knew what they might do? When Changing Spring thought about how he had to order everyone to disperse, he felt a headache coming. He had roared at everyone to hurry up and gather together. Without doing anything, everyone suddenly needed to disperse. Was this a joke or something? Changing Spring couldn't think of any excuse to make. In the end, he could only say it was a misunderstanding and had everyone scatter. Samsara had already fallen for the misunderstanding. Changing Spring was afraid that having everyone scatter wouldn't be enough of an explanation to the other side, so he gave Samsara's guild leader 3 Realm 6 Paths a message. It's a misunderstanding. Don't make this a big deal. 3 Realm 6 Paths was just about to give a speech to everyone when he suddenly received the message from Changing Spring. He suddenly froze. Changing Spring was so annoying. His messages were always so short, making it difficult to make things clear. 3 Realm 6 Paths didn't ask him for further details and instead asked Blue Brook Guild's Flying Brushstroke. He was a core member of Blue Brook Guild and one of the 5 great experts. 3 Realm 6 Path reckoned that if Changing Spring knew about it, the other core members would know. 2 Flying Brushstroke obviously knew about it, but it was so embarrassing. They had panicked at some casual words from God Yi Chu. How could that be anything glorious? Of course, it wasn't. As a result, Flying Brushstroke didn't want to say the truth. He just said they had a misunderstanding with someone, not towards Samsara. If Samsara had gathered their troops to defend against them, they didn't need to. He didn't want to talk about the details. 3 Realm 6 Paths obviously didn't want a huge battle with Blue Brook Guild. Their guild's strength was weaker than Blue Brook Guild by a bit. However, Blue Brook Guild wasn't explaining things clearly, which made it difficult for him to relax. Thus, he didn't mobilize the troops, but he had everyone stay, just in case. However, since Samsara didn't disperse, Blue Brook Guild became nervous. Their players had all left. If Samsara didn't, were they planning on attacking them? As a result, Blue Brook Guild continued to ask Samsara. The 2 guilds went back and forth, all because of a few words that Yi Shu casually said. He had no idea, though. He was just waiting for the elites to start fighting, so he could pick up equipment. Seeing that there weren't any movements, he lost his patience and pestered Blue Bridge Spring Snow. Are you fighting or not? Are you fighting or not? Blue River wasn't in the mood to answer him anymore. He just pretended like he was dead. While the 2 guilds were talking, the elites were just standing there. They weren't even bullying normal players right now. Then again, Samsara had gathered 1,000 players together. Normal players weren't so stupid as to provoke such a huge army. A perfectly good opportunity to scrap pick had become something the scrap pickers could only sit and wait for. F***CK. What's going on? Wei Chen was completely puzzled. He was a group leader, but he had no idea what the higher-ups wanted. It made feel very awkward. Yi Shu was helpless. He handed over a cigarette to Wei Chen and glanced at his screen. He saw a figure flash by his warlock. Hey hey hey, turn to the left, Yi Shu hastily cried. Out. What? Wei Chen was currently lighting his cigarette. Hearing Yi Shu's cry, he put the cigarette in his mouth and swiped his mouse to the left. Yi Shu looked at Wei Chen's screen and immediately discovered something. That punk. Keep an eye on him for me. Yi Shu pointed. Assassin, not white. Deception knew that Yi Shu was scrap picking at Blue Brook Guild's side, so he didn't dare go over there. Again, there were 2 hold lands for scrap picking at the moment, one at Blue Brook Guild's side and one at Samsara's side. Since he couldn't go to the Blue Brook Guild one, Deception ran over to Samsara. But because of this incident, there wasn't anything to scrap pick for now. Deception patiently waited for an opportunity. When he saw so many Samsara players gather, he knew that something big was about to happen. The bigger the battle, the better the scrap picking. How could Deception bear to leave? After wandering around the nearby area, Yishu happened to notice him on Wei Chen's screen. "Who's this?" Wei Chen asked. "That's Deception's alternate account," Yishu said. Deception was a talent that Yishu wanted to recruit. So Yishu had introduced him to Wei Chen before. Oh, that guy. Perfect. I'll go see how good he is," Wei Chen said. A few minutes later, Wei Chen let out a sigh. F***ck, he really does have some skill. He almost escaped. Yishu looked at Not White's corpse as well as Samsara's elite players moving about on Wei Chen's screen. He couldn't help but sigh. "You really are a brute. Was there really a need to call for so many people? I'm a group leader. I have a group around me. Why wouldn't I use them? You want me to run over and duel him? That doesn't follow the game's rules." Wei Chen said righteously. He said he wanted to see how good Deception was for himself. Instead of having his warlock face him head-on, he called his entire second elite group to take on the task. It was 100 players versus 1, but this time, it was different from Tang Ru's and Steamed Bun invasion situation. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun charged forward to fight them, but Deception wanted to run. However, Wei Chen was still able to lead his team and kill him off without much suspense. He could still tell that Deception wasn't simple though. "This guy's worthy of being recruited. Keep whittling him down. I'll help you keep a lookout for him," Wei Chen said. Yishu had talked to him about Deception's circumstances. Recruiting someone who wasn't interested in the pro scene was a difficult task. It was as if football club went to an NBA player and said, "Hey, why don't you come with us and win the UEFA Champions League?" The NBA player would think the club was insane. No. In addition, Deception didn't have a good understanding of the pro scene either. He didn't want to talk either. Their only choice was to whittle him down until he did by killing him over and over again. He might have other alternate accounts. Take note, Yishu said. For a player like him, hiding his alternate accounts is difficult. Wei Chen nodded his head. As a result, Yishu brought Tang Ru and Steam Bun over to Blue Brook Guild's side. Wei Chen continued to sit at Samsara's side. If Deception wanted to continue scrap picking, he would have to give up on these 2 locations. "We're here to scrap pick again. Don't make this a big deal." Yishu led Tang Ru and Steamed Bun over to an area near Blue Brook Guild's elite group. But this time, he gave Blue River a heads up. Changing Spring felt his hands shake at the information. Scrap pickers didn't have a good name. Usually, they wouldn't bother with them and kill them if it was in the passing. To think a scrap picker would actually give them a heads up. Changing Spring endured it, even though the previous incident had been a misunderstanding. He was aware of this god's abilities. However, letting him scrap pick without any worries was too shameful. Changing Spring gave the order to pay attention and pick up any dropped items. He didn't want Yishu to have it so easy. The day passed by like this. In the end, Samsara and Blue Brook Guild didn't fight. A misunderstanding was a misunderstanding. As long as no one took advantage of it, it was easy to resolve. Blue Brook Guild didn't gather everyone or make any ambushes. Samsara also dispersed their army and continued to display their might by bullying normal players. Yishu's group scrap picked for the entire day. Blue Brook Guild saw it clearly, but pretended to not notice. But they still listened to their guild leaders' orders. They picked up equipment like crazy. Especially when they saw those 3 come over. They immediately stopped what they were doing and pick up anything around them. Oftentimes, those 3 had to leave with nothing to show for it, making Blue Brook Guild's players very happy. After this day passed, the week officially ended. As the curtains fell, Season 8 of the Glory Pro Alliance was also put to rest. Team Samsara was this season's champions. Their Team captain and ace player, Joe Zekai, was proclaimed the MVP of the regular season and the MVP of the finals. At the same time, he also won the Team DPS star and most reliable player in the group arena. All of these came from the statistics gathered in the regular season. There were other awards as well. King of Duels, which was based on the number of wins in the individual competition, was awarded to Team Tiny Herbs Lu Xiaobi and his Blade Master. Flying Sword, One Hit One Kill, which was based on the finishing blows in the team competition, was awarded to Team Blue Rain's Wang Xiaodian and his Blade Master. Troubling Rain, Best Sixth Player, which was based on the achievements of the sixth player in the team competition, was awarded to Team Misty Rain's Lu Yining and his Sharpshooter Something to Hide. Team Void's Li Zan and Wu Yus won Best Pair for their Ghost Blade duo. Team 100 Blossoms Tang Hao won Rising Star. There was also the Best Rookie award. This award was given based on evaluations of the matches throughout the year. Season 8 wasn't as spectacular as Sun Zhang's rookie year last season. Sun Shang had played a leading role in his team and was a fierce opponent. Team Thunderclaps Dai Yankee, Team Wind Howls, Zhao Yu's Team Royals He Whiting were often mentioned. In the end, Team Wind Howls Zhao Yu's won Best Rookie. Team Wind Howl ended in 9th this season and failed to make it to the playoffs. Their team captain and ace player Lin Jingyan's condition was declining due to age. After the duel between him and Tang Hao at the All-Star competition, which he lost the title of number 1 brawler, was no longer his. Their team's other All-Star, Fang Rui, had a strong start but a weak finish this season. The All-Star competition was the start of his decline. On the other hand, Zhao Yu's performance was steady all throughout the year, so he won the Best Rookie award. After the Season 8 awards were given, the two relegated teams had to be mentioned: Team Excellent Era and Team Mysterious Fantasy, because these teams placed second to last and last. In the regular season, they were relegated.
Why is it here?
Because it's flagged for disposal. Central Knot's gone, and our headquarters along with it. Because that thing didn't do its job. It's all in Igor's loss.
But it's still alive.
It can't be repaired, and it can't survive outside the pod. Pity it if you want, but the decision has been made. It has to go. The director approved the order.
$694 first summer transfer. Although these results were officially announced after the finals, the outcome had already been decided and known weeks ago. Everyone had already been discussing it for a while now, especially with one of the relegated teams being a former powerhouse. Relegated teams rarely attracted this much attention. Only the fans of that team would be grieved. After everything had been decided, Excellent Era gave a public statement. While the eyes of everyone were focused on the champions, Excellent Era wanted to give their fans a little bit of hope. Club Excellent Era's boss, Dao Zan, personally accepted an interview. In the interview, he said that although Team Excellent Era had been relegated, it was far from being over, especially after seeing this year's finals. From Samsara, he ascertained that his choices for the players in the team were correct. This was an era which required stars, and that his team had a star as brilliant as Joe Zekai. Are you talking about Sun Shang? The interviewer could easily guess who Dao Zan was talking about. Sun Shang was a god-level player, and his appearance was quite good too. He had everything Joe Zekai possessed, and he also wasn't as quiet as Joe Zekai. If he continued to grow, he would be worth even more than Joe Zekai. From Dao Zuan's words, it seemed like he was very confident of this. With a popular player like Su Mucheng on the team, Excellent Era wasn't any stranger to promoting a player's business value. It could be seen from Dao Zuan's attitude that although Su Mucheng was outstanding, she still couldn't compare to Joe Zekai. No one would argue about such a notion. In a competitive environment, victory was still the main factor. Beauty was beauty, but the audience wasn't watching the competitive scene to look at pretty girls. Joe Zekai's stunning performance pumped up the players. Appearance was just a little flower to top things off. Suma Cheng wasn't a bad player. If her skill was garbage, no matter how beautiful she was, it wouldn't have been possible for her to be so popular. The pro scene wasn't such a place where one could eat just based on their looks. Even if one were promoted as someone who was skilled, one's performance on stage would reveal everything. Anyways, since one's performance on stage was the main factor, the content of the match mattered too. It's like in football, how the forward always brought more attention than the rear guard. The performance in a match, the playstyle, and the importance of the match all decided a player's popularity. From this point of view, Joe Zekai stood out the most. In Dao Zuan's eyes, Suma Cheng wasn't someone who could reach that level. Her performance on stage wasn't outstanding enough. Her popularity would at best stay the same. It would be good if it didn't decline. As for Sun Shang, he was someone who could stand next to Joe Zekai. He was young, he had drive, he had good looks, his potential was limitless. Joe Zekai's success was a living example, which seemed to be a stimulant for Dao Zan, who dared to announce it to the media. His praise for Samsara's success didn't indicate his love for the team. It was simply because they were proof that his way of thinking about the team was correct. Praising Samsara only allowed the fans to know, even though we were eliminated this season, by following the correct path, we'll rapidly grow. Look at this season's champion Samsara. That will be us in the future. They have Joe Zekai. We have Sun Shang. However, from how this season went, it doesn't seem like Sun Shang and Team Excellent Era are fitting together too well. The interviewer obviously wouldn't blindly flatter Dao Zan. He still had to be incisive when he needed to be. However, Dao Zan remained calm when faced with such an embarrassing question. He admitted that there had been problems between Sun Shang and Team Excellent Era, otherwise they wouldn't have been relegated, but he once again emphasized that Team Excellent Era had great aspirations and that things needed to be looked at from the perspective of the future. Their previous glory was now part of the past. The team needed to turn a new leaf. As for how they were going to deal with the issues between Sun Shang and Team Excellent Era, Dao Zan delightedly threw out a huge bomb. Team Thunderclap's captain, all-star, and master tactician Xiao Shikan would be transferring to Team Excellent Era next season. I don't think I need to explain Xiao Shikan's achievements, do I? I believe that he'll be able to beautifully incorporate every one of Team Excellent Era's members into his tactics. Dao Zan confidently expressed. This was definitely a huge bomb dropped. Xiao Shikan had already announced his departure from Team Thunderclap in the playoffs. Many people guessed that he would be transferring to Team Excellent Era. It was very reasonable. However, this had just been a guess. Team Excellent Era was simply one of many possibilities. Although it was logical, Team Excellent Era had been relegated, which was a very vulnerable weakness. Would an all-star like Xiao Shikan still want to join a team that needed to go through the Challenger League next year? Team Excellent Era had now confirmed it. The Glory Pro Alliance's summer transfer window started from July 1st to August 31st. It was still June right now, but the season was already over. Xiao Shikan had stated his intentions earlier and Dao Zan had released the news. Although it didn't conform to the rules exactly, no one really minded. Dao Zan was also anxious. Their team would not be participating in the regular season next year. They would certainly lose a lot of popularity. He had to do everything he could so that the fans wouldn't give up on them. Announcing Xiao Shikan's transfer early was a good move, because everyone knew Xiao Shikan wasn't transferring to Team Excellent Era to play in the Challenger League, but was instead thinking about the future. He would sacrifice a season, return to the Pro Alliance with a stronger Team Excellent Era, and win the championships. If even an all-star like Xiao Shikan thought highly of Team Excellent Era's future, wouldn't others also be patient? Dao Zuan's message was mainly used for this effect. The first transfer for the summer had already been announced. This sort of news was certainly delightful. News for the fans during the break. After the finals ended, the official break period for the teams began. This was only a break for some people. For the owners, managers, logistics, team, captain, etc., it wasn't a vacation. In order to prepare for the upcoming season, every team would still be operating. Whether it was player transfers, character transfers, or equipment upgrades, all of these were the main tasks during the summer. The diligent players would even return to practicing after a short rest. There might not be any matches to play, but they would still play in the game, assisting their clubs in killing wild bosses. Yishu obviously knew about this situation. This was all voluntary for the players though. The clubs wouldn't require it. Conquering Clouds, Radiant, and Parade didn't make it into the playoffs, so their break had started earlier. However, none of their pro players were willing to use this break to contribute to the team, which made Yishu quite sad. Helping out in the game during their break was more of an old player habit. In the early days of the Alliance, pro players weren't solely responsible for the matches that they played in. In-game activities such as killing bosses for materials and other forms of competitio were tasks that pro players frequently participated in. As for the later generation players, they only needed to focus on practicing and preparing for their matches. The in-game tasks were given to a separate, specialized game department in the club. As a result, the number of pro players who helped out in-game during the break became fewer and fewer. Those 3 teams had already been on a 1-month break, yet none of their players had the conscience to help out their guilds in-game. Yishu felt like there wasn't any hope. After a fierce showing between Blue Brook Guild and Samsara, the fans gradually calmed down and the game became peaceful again. Snatching bosses was something that always needed to be done, but this time, everyone knew a new opponent had come. God. Yichu and his 4 guild alliance. Last week, everyone was busy fighting with each other, so they never actually faced them, but now everyone would be facing this new challenge. The guild core members were all somewhat uneasy. Their opponent was no small fry. Early Monday morning, 3 wild bosses spawned across the heavenly domain. The 4 guild alliance made an impressive showing, but weren't able to take any of these 3 bosses in the end. However, this was because God Yichu wasn't there. The 4 guilds were relying on their own abilities to fight. It was a big difference without God Yichu's leadership and support. Later in the morning, Yishu's group logged on. Lulin Slash and the other guild leaders were eagerly awaiting for him to come online. Even though different players could cycle through the guild characters in their group, Yishu himself was important, not his character. When Yishu wasn't online, they could only pray that no bosses spawned. Last night 3 had spawned. The 4 guild alliance had attempted to contest them, but they failed. The top guilds were on their utmost guard against them. All of the top guilds seemed to be together to win this, as if the 4 guild alliance was their number 1 enemy. It had to be said that this was because of Yishu's terror. After knowing that Yishu was behind this, the top guilds couldn't help but gather together in fear. It wasn't like before, where they would discuss with each other for a long time before coming to a conclusion. Now 2 words came out in their discussion group. He's here. The enemy Yishu had arrived. Another 2 words, be careful. And with this, an alliance was formed. The 4 guilds' attack didn't go well for them, so the 4 guild leaders revised their sleep schedule to match Yishu's. In the morning, they sighed, sure enough, God Yichu is very important. Without him, our 4 guilds are nothing. Because of God Yichu's addition, they became the target of everyone, so the difficulty in snatching bosses changed. This was something that they had failed to realize.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Clear. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
distribution. Check the location on your compass.
695 four-person representative group. Lulin Slash and the other 3 guild leaders gathered together, but Lord Grimm was still missing from their friends list. Ever since they became allies, they promised to meet up at a certain time every day. However, when the 4 met up at the designated time, God had yet to log on. They suddenly became very anxious. Why hasn't God arrived yet? The 4 were worried. After hearing about the reports for the 3 battles last night, they all knew that God's existence was indispensable. They wouldn't be able to do anything without him. At this moment, all 4 guild leaders received a friend request at the same time. The friend requests were all from a player called Enlightened Lord. They also saw the reason for the request, Lord Grimm. Hell, the 4 were puzzled, but they still accepted the friend request. It's me, the Enlightened Lord guy messaged as soon as he was added. God, the 4 expressed their uncertainty all at once. Yeah. Why did you change accounts? The 4 couldn't understand. It doesn't matter, Yishu replied unhurriedly. Of course, there was a reason for using an alternate account. Yishu reckoned that if they fought 4 bosses the moment Lord Grimm came out to the front, all of the big guilds would go over and eliminate him at all costs. This was very disruptive towards the balance. Everyone was there to snatch bosses. It wouldn't be convenient to provoke everyone to kill him first. As a result, Yishu decided to use an alternate account if he really needed to. They had quite a lot of alternate accounts. Wei Chen and Chen Guo bought them with Wei Chen's earnings. In the end, Chen Guo gloomily discovered. Why did she ask others to help build a guild? Couldn't she just make up for their lack of numbers with all of these alternate accounts? Thus, Guild Happy was established once they gathered all these side accounts together. However, it was quite lonely because apart from Chen Guo's chasing Haze and the battle mage who left excellent era with her forest landscape, there weren't any other live players in the guild. Everyone else was just alternate accounts. The account cards were lying neatly in the drawer, without any trace of life or use. It still hadn't been 5 days since Lord Grimm, Soft Mist, and Steamed Bun Invasion left Heavenly Justice. The friends that Chen Guo urged to join weren't enough as well. Today was good though. A 3rd live name had finally been added to the guild, Enlightened Lord, a cleric. Among the bundle of accounts they bought, the original equipment on him was pretty bad. The 3 had gained quite a lot from their diligent scrap picking during these past few days. However, Yishu was too lazy to pick equipment from their harvest, so he asked Chen Guo for some gold so he could directly buy his equipment from the market. Just like this, he gathered together some mediocre equipment. After that, he sent friend requests to the 4 guild leaders. After the request was accepted and everyone was now in touch again, they were ready to kill any bosses that appeared. After Samsara and Blue Brook Guild calmed down, everyone finally stopped fighting. Even though there were still a few clashes from time to time, the scale of the conflict between them wasn't big enough for a scrap-picking ground. Yishu's group of 3 had free time since there was nothing to do. Yishu was casually walking around with his Enlightened Lord, while Tang Ru and Steamed Bun were practicing. Yes, practice. Those 2 were no longer casually mucking around like normal players in the game. Yishu was researching and organizing a set of specialized training programs. Pro teams had their own training programs, but practice naturally relied on a variety of programs. Through the computer, Yishu didn't have any of the programs on hand, but he understood the reasoning behind the practice drills. As a result, he adopted a primitive method by using Glory's in-game environment to design different kinds of drills. Although they weren't as targeted or effective as those specialized programs, he didn't have a better way. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun needed these kinds of repetitive systematic training methods in order to strengthen and consolidate their skills. It also helped to raise their awareness in the game. These drills weren't effective if they were only practiced for a day or two. Like exercising the body, they required repetition. These repetitive practices were relatively dull after they passed their phases of newness. However, hard work was necessary if one wanted to become a true professional player. If one only played for fun, they could only become a skilled online player at best. Professional player. The word before player was professional. If one wanted to become a pro player, he or she must have a professional attitude. These kinds of repetitive drills would build up one of the required attitudes for a professional players. These drills would accompany the player throughout their whole career. The players relied on these training methods to improve and strengthen their skills, while older players needed them to adjust and maintain them. It seemed as if Yishu never specifically trained for these. This was because with his skill level, he was able to apply the theory into practice. As long as he was aware, he was able to complete these practices daily through killing mobs, PK, and even when he was hurrying along his way, he didn't need to use things like computer software. For him, training opportunities were everywhere. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun were still new to the training, so they were enthusiastic. However, the two didn't practice for long today before Marshall Awareness Parade's guild leader sent everyone some news. A boss had spawned. Level 70 wild boss Dolaki Stadium, Gladiator Beetalibus. This boss was geared towards the assassin from the Nightwalker class. However, it possessed a shield. Like a knight, it was a boss's speciality to be able to have a mixture of classes. The players had gotten used to it, so they didn't have too many sentiments. Like facing every other wild boss, the boss itself was never the hard part. The hard part was snatching the boss from all of the other guilds. Let's hurry. They had already lost 3 bosses last night due to God's absence. Now that he along with the other 4 guilds were here, they could finally strike with their full power. In addition, this was after their period of convenient pickings. They could finally formally compete with the big guilds for the boss. Level 70 wild bosses. It went without saying that the big guilds would go at full power. Their success or failure this time would truly determine whether their alliance was worth it. Let's set off. Yishu called for Tang Ru and Steamed Bun and advanced with his cleric. Enlightened Lord, Tang Ru and Steamed Bun also switched to their alternate accounts. Even though Soft Mist and Steamed Bun invasion drew less enmity than Lord Grim, the big guilds would definitely know that these two were sworn followers of God Yichu. They wouldn't be any better when they were on the battlefield. Yishu felt that it was better to stay low-key. After the 3 had switched to their side accounts, did they have to hide their title as part of Guild Happy? Although it was just recently established in the heavenly domain, the news must have spread out from the 10th server. The big guilds most probably knew whose guild this belonged to. This time, there were no longer only 3 people who represented Guild Happy. There was a 4th person, Little Cold Hands. He already left Tyrannical Ambition and was considered to have transferred to Happy officially. However, his character was similar to Lord Grim. It still hadn't been 5 days since he left, so he couldn't join the guild yet. He was already a member of the team, so Yishu didn't hide the current situation of the guild. The wild boss was also something they had to compete for in the game. After hearing that Guild Happy was about to fight, Little Cold Hands hurried over, despite not being part of the guild yet. Dolaki Stadium was near Maluo City, and the teleportation portal there was destination that had to be passé, so the 2 sides agreed to meet up here. By the time Little Cold Hands rushed over, he saw many players with the title of the big guilds. Players with exceptional equipment were constantly teleporting here and rushing towards the same direction. Little Cold Hands saw these players and knew this was going to be a big event. Then, he spun around, searching for the person who called him to come here, and soon heard a voice, Little Hands, this way. Little Cold Hands spun around once again. He could hear the voice, but he couldn't find the person. However, he soon received an invitation to join in their group. The invitor was Enlightened Lord. Little Cold Hands spun around again, and finally 3 characters at the foot of the wall beside The portal, Enlightened Lord, was a cleric among the three, alongside a battle mage and brawler. The three players together seemed unalarming yet scary. If someone told him in the past that these three were prepared to snatch a wild boss with these equipment, he would definitely die of laughter. After accepting the invite, Little Cold Hands saw a message in the group chat that put away his doubt. It says, Little Cold Hands walked over to meet with the three. Yishu took the initiative to explain, our main accounts are too obvious. We need to stay low-key. Quote. Quote. Alright, let's set off, Yishu said. Just the four of us. Little Cold Hands asked. The Allied forces will arrive soon, Yishu said. It's just the four of us. Little Cold Hands obviously didn't treat the Allied forces as his own people. Do you have any problems with that? Yishu asked. No, aren't our numbers a bit too few? Little Cold Hands sweat, a bit too few. It was way too few. All of the leveling areas near Maluo City were level 70. The wild boss would definitely be level 70 as well. Even though Little Cold Hands had never joined such a high-level battle, but coming out of a big guild, even if he had never eaten a pig, he had still seen one before. The guilds would definitely send out the strongest elite groups to face the level 70 wild boss. And they were planning to compete with just 4 of them. It's quite a lot. There were only 3 of us before you joined, Yishu said. Quote. Quote. Little Cold Hands didn't know what to say. Could this be the temperament of a professional team? As they traveled, Yishu got in touch with the 4 guild leaders. After asking everyone for their location, they chose a place and soon met up. Lulin / Music and White Stream and Martial Awareness were only leaders of a medium L guild in the eyes of top guilds such as Blue Brook Guild, Herb Garden and Tyrannical Ambition. On the other hand, in the eyes of normal players, they were worthy of being looked up to. The 4 guild leaders brought their troops with them. They all valued this boss, so they brought their strongest elites. This could be seen just from their equipment. In comparison, Guild Happy only had 4 people and their equipment only got worse after one another. This was called a 5-guild alliance. Little Cold Hands was in a trance. Of course, he knew very well that they weren't a part of the alliance because of the guild's strength, but rather because of God Yi Chu God. He even said now that everyone had gathered together, just from the sheer number of players that had gathered, their own side seemed much weaker. As for the other 3 on his side, they didn't seem to feel any discomfort towards this matter at all. Yes, they even had more people this time. Up until now, they only ever had 3 people.
Like that. I'm allowed to use their facilities and to speak with you whenever I want. I just can't leave this.
696 guild feature. What's the situation like over there? Yishu's Enlightened Lord didn't stop moving after meeting up with the 4 players. He continued to head towards the stadium while asking them, Lulin / and the other 3 respected figures in the game purposefully stood to the left and right of Enlightened Lord, placing him in the center. Afterwards, Parade's guild leader, Martial Awareness, who had first discovered the boss, explained the situation. The situation is looking grim. 3 guilds located. The boss before us. From our observations of the teleport formation, 3 other guilds are en route. Martial Awareness introduced 6 guilds. That's okay. That's not too many, Yishu said. For wild bosses, there will usually be around 10 or so club guilds with the strength to compete. Only 6 guilds participating could be considered a small number. 6 guilds is just for now. Martial Awareness expressed. Yeah, I know. Stay on the lookout. Have the 3 guilds ahead made any movements yet? Yishu said. They haven't for now. They haven't finished gathering their troops together. Martial Awareness said. Which 3 guilds arrived first? Yishu asked. Tyrannical Ambition, Misty Castle, and Howling Heights. Martial Awareness said. How strong are these 3 guilds exactly? Yishu asked. He didn't have a deep understanding of the game. He knew that Blue Brook Guild, Herb Garden, and Tyrannical Ambition were the strongest guilds, and had been christened the 3 great guilds. He only knew about these sorts of common knowledge. As for how each guild stacked against each other, Yi Shu believed that no one knew better than the guilds competing against them. As expected, martial awareness replied clearly. Tyrannical ambition is a bit stronger than the others. In a large-scale PK battle, tyrannical ambition stands out. If you compare Misty Castle to Howling Heights is slightly stronger. What are the class compositions of each of the three guild's elite teams? Yishu asked. That martial awareness wasn't sure. Yuzikin and White Stream were also stunned. It wasn't difficult to find out the class composition of the three elite groups, but it was just that their smaller guilds rarely competed against the top guilds. Their wild boss hunts were considered poaching. Directly competing was called snatching. They could get information on these guild elite groups, but they just never placed much importance on it. None of the three guild leaders could answer. However, Lulin Slash stood out. His team's original intention had been to become champions. He had arrogantly considered these big guilds as their pretend rivals and had thoroughly prepared to fight against them. God, I'll send over the information to you, Lulin Slash said as he forwarded the document to Yishu on QQ. Yishu took a look. It was information on the elite groups of every club guild, not just the class competition, but even the names of the characters. That should be around what they have, Lulin Slash said. He wasn't completely certain. Groups sometimes changed players. Let me see. Yishu continued to rush forward with enlightened lords while skimming through Lulin Slash's document. Lulin Slash had done quite a diligent job with this document. He even had information on what equipment many of the group members wore. These details were a bit excessive. Finding the composition of the group was enough. Who will be the first one to finish gathering all of their members together? Yishu asked. Tyrannical ambition. Martial awareness said. Tyrannical ambition will probably try to kill it fast as possible. Let's hurry, Yishu guessed. No one questioned him. The four guild leaders began to urge everyone to speed up. Sprinting used up stamina. No one could keep sprinting for a long period of time. Speeding up required switching between sprinting and recovering at appropriate intervals, as well as utilizing stamina potions. As a result, there were differences between different characters. Yishu and the other guild leaders ran at the front. When Yishu turned around to look, he discovered that Little Cold Hands was actually able to keep up. Not bad, Yishu praised. You talked about this in the materials you gave me. I thought that it would be useful, so I've been practicing, Little Cold Hands said. Little Cold Hands' strong points were his ability to judge the situation and his surroundings. His mechanics weren't anything special. It was only because he had played the game for longer that he was better than someone new like Concealed Light. As a result, he had also given Little Cold Hands a training plan to follow like he had with Concealed Light. These two had poor mechanics. They were far from being at Tang Ru's or Steamed Bun's level. Their starting points were different. The training plan that Yishu had given Little Cold Hands was more fundamental, but also more all around. For example, something like utilizing stamina optimally was naturally very basic. It was one of the items talked about in the training packet. Yishu never told Little Cold Hands which of these things he should prioritize. Little Cold Hands learning how to utilize stamina without being told to do so showed his attentiveness and insight. He had clearly thought of how he would only be able to keep up with everyone else if he could maintain his movement speed. If he couldn't keep up, then there was no point talking about any sort of coordinating. He was a cleric. If he wasn't with the team, he was useless. Yishu didn't know he had done this kind of practice before. He didn't know how long it took him to be able to reach a level where he could completely keep up with Yishu and the others. Not bad, not bad. As a cleric, flexibility is important. Only by being flexible can you cover a wider range. If the cleric is flexible, the team can also be flexible. A good cleric doesn't require his team members to deliberately look for his position. A good cleric will always appear where he should appear. Yishu gave a lecture. Tyrannical ambition has started attacking the boss, Martial awareness said. Martial awareness also kept up with them. After all, he was a guild leader and utilizing stamina was a part of the basics. In reality, players in the heavenly domain paid attention to their usage. It just depended on their level of skill. As expected, Yishu wasn't surprised. What are the other two guilds doing? They've started fighting, Martial Awareness said. The three guilds are fighting, Yishu asked. It seems like it. Martial Awareness wasn't at the scene, he was just receiving reports. Hurry, Yishu didn't say anything else. They weren't there yet, saying anything was pointless. As Gladiator Beta attacked the surrounding players, the three guilds began fighting with each other too. The first to move was Tyrannical Ambition. Their players were the first to arrive, so they had more players. In addition, they were slightly stronger than the other guilds, so they didn't care too much about Misty Castle or Howling Heights. Zhang Yu gave the order, and the elite group began attacking the boss. Even if the other two guilds didn't attack Tyrannical Ambition wasn't going to ignore them. As soon as Tyrannical Ambition attacked, they also attacked the other two guilds. Tyrannical Ambition seemed to be quite confident in beating the boss and the other two guilds. Tyrannical Ambition had the qualifications to be confident. The three great guilds weren't called that for no reason, whether it was the number of players, guild storage, uncommon materials, or their elite group strength. They undoubtedly stood at the top, especially because these things all complemented one another. If their elite groups weren't strong, how could they get any materials? Without a huge number of players as their foundation, how could they build up their guild storage? After Zhang Yu gave the order, his elementalist, Wandering Shockwave, also entered the fray. He personally acted, building up morale. His magic exploded, specifically aimed towards Misty Castle's elementalists. Team Misty Rain's ace character was an elementalist. Influenced by this, the guild had more elementalists. In their elite group, elementalists were their main source of damage. Glass cannon classes like elementalists had explosive firepower. Zhang Yu himself was an elementalist, so he was well aware of it. But he didn't cower. He personally led his long-range attackers to fire at the Misty Castle elementalists. The elementalists of Misty Castle were outstanding, and the clerics of Tyrannical Ambition were exceptional. The stars of the teams influenced which classes gathered in the respective guild. It had already become a feature of the big guilds. Their elite groups displayed this feature. With the support from skilled clerics, Zhang Yu didn't fear the attacks from Misty Castle's elementalists. His decision was clearly correct. After the two sides fought, Misty Castle couldn't hang on. Tyrannical Ambition also had skilled strikers just like Han Wenking, who they admired. They imagined themselves as the king of fighting and quickly tore through Misty Rain's formation. Once they got close, Misty Castle's elementalists were practically trampled to death. Misty Castle wasn't able to win. Their leader quickly ordered everyone retreat. Misty Castle's guild leader, Misty Locke, wasn't even there yet. After quickly defeating Misty Castle, Zhang Yu felt very good. He turned around, was about to give Howling Heights a good lesson, but when he looked, he saw an elementalist standing high on one of the stone pillars in the stadium. He was dressed in a blue-green robe. Zhang Yu recognized it as the level 70 orange equipment clear sky magic robes. To be able to wear a full set of orange equipment, this person wasn't an ordinary person. But this person, Guild Howling Heights, his name, Hazy Scene. Even though Howling Heights wasn't considered one of the three great guilds, they were at least a guild that could often compete with them. Zhang Yu recognized their experts, but he didn't recognize this name. But seeing his arrogant appearance, Zhang Yu felt an indescribable anger. As Tyrannical Ambition's guild leader, Zhang Yu was someone who stood at the top of the game, just by wearing a full set of level 70 orange equipment and standing at a high point. Did he think he could scare him? No, definitely not. Zhang Yu was just about to order his troops to kill this arrogant guy, when that elementalist made his move first. He lifted his hands, pointed his staff towards Zhang Yu's wandering peak, and fired a fireball.
Hey there. Believe we've met? I oversee delivery operations as well as maintenance and repairs. Nice to have you on board. I'm Mama, in case I didn't mention it before. Those there are strands. Not just used for packing, by the way, but for identification too. Take a closer look and you'll see. See the red there? That's your blood.
Sam, this is Deadman. I calibrated your BB based on physiological data we collected from the world. It's still just the best guess though. After you take it out for a spin, we can check if you're in sync and tweak the BB sensitivity as needed.
This case will remove any chiral matter still clinging to your suit. Speaking of suits, blue is for delivery personnel, red for medical, orange for corpse disposal, and black for security.
Then he from the all still down finished casting a spell and aimed at Hazy Scene. Suddenly, he heard a boom. A pillar of fire erupted into the sky. Elementalist skill. Raging flame. The spell didn't hit Peak, so he didn't need to dodge it. This raging flames caused him to lose sight of his target. When the pillar of fire erupted, Hazy Scene was enveloped in it. Not even a shred of his equipment could be seen. Zhang Yu was originally about to click on his target, but he suddenly didn't know where to click. Hazy Scene couldn't have just disappeared though. Zhang Yu relied on his experience to guess his general location and cast his spell. Elementalist skill, Piercing Lightning. A flash of lightning shot out from the tip of Wandering Peak's staff. The lightning crackled as it moved in a straight line, piercing through the pillar of fire and hitting the stone pillar on the other side of it. It didn't hit. Zhang Yu thought to himself. He suddenly felt like something strange was going on around him. The air surrounding Wandering Peak seemed to be emitting tiny sparks as if lightning had passed through. The ground below him was becoming darker and darker. His view was becoming hazier too, as if he were in a steam cooker. F***CK. How could the experienced Zhang Yu not know what was going on? He immediately tried to cast teleport, but it didn't work. All of Wandering Peak's skill icons turned completely gray. Below his character's health and mana bar, a debuff symbol appeared. Elementalist darkness skill, Magic Prison. No spells could be cast within the range of the prison. The prisoner wouldn't be able to use any spells for 4 seconds. 4 seconds sounded short, but Zhang Yu knew that let alone 4 seconds, 1 second was more than enough. Lightning and fire instantly enveloped Wandering Peak. Elementalist skill, Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire. Zhang Yu could see the signs of this spell being cast, but he wasn't able to dodge it because the other side had countermeasures set up to stop him. Magic Prison completely silenced his spells, using his 2 legs to run out of Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire's range was impossible. Under the barrage of lightning and fire, Zhang Yu could see the fire pillar from the raging flames begin to disappear. Hazy Scene stood on the ground with his staff pointed towards him. An expert, an incredible expert. Zhang Yu had the eyes to see that, even more so for someone with the same class as him. His opponent had been able to complete 2 spells during the short animation time that had taken to jump down from the pillar. Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire, Magic Prison. No, 3 spells. There was Raging Flames too. Casting while in the air wasn't anything new. As long as one had mobile cast activated, any spell could be cast while moving. The problem was that it only took the blink of an eye to jump down from that height. Let alone being able to cast 3 spells. Zhang Yu was certain that he wouldn't have even been able to Cast 2 before landing. For someone to be able to do something far surpassing his abilities, what type of expert was this? Zhang Yu only had one answer, a pro player. As a club guild leader, he obviously knew that during the competitive scene summer break pro players would sometimes hop into the game, perhaps to help the guild or perhaps to pass the time. If a pro player came out, how could he not participate in something as important as snatching wild bosses? A pro player from Team Wind Howl. Which pro player in Team Wind Howl used an elementalist? In the blink of an eye, he recalled a name, Zhao Yu's. This very season 8's a best rookie, Team Wind Howl's Zhao Yu's. His character was called Beautiful Light. Wasn't that also an elementalist? Zhang Yu himself was an elementalist, so he paid more attention to pro players of the same class, even if they weren't from Team Tyranny. As a result, he was instantly able to guess his opponent's identity. Zhang Yu's heart fell. He hadn't expected Howling Heights to have a pro player participate. If a pro player came, the guild would obviously provide an account for him to use. The character would be wearing a complete set of orange equipment too. Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire was something Zhang Yu couldn't dodge. His opponent didn't show any mercy and cast several spells consecutively. By the time Heavenly Lightning dissipated, Zhang Yu was basically dead. Zhang Yu had previously attacked Misty Castle from the front lines, so the other side knew his identity and would obviously place great importance on him. Wandering Peak hadn't been at full health at the start of the fight either. Now a pro player was specially taking care of him. Run. The instant Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire dissipated, Zhang Yu was about to escape by using teleport to hide among his people. Before he could even cast his spell, his character could only complete a turn when lightning struck Wandering Peak from behind, piercing through his chest. F***CK, Zhang Yu cursed. Wandering Peak's health fell to 0. He died from his opponent's piercing lightning, the very same skill that Zhang Yu had initially used to counterattack. HMPH. When Wandering Peak fell, Hazy Scene didn't even glance at him as he coldly humped and headed towards a different location. Zhang Yu didn't guess wrong. The player controlling Hazy Scene was from Team Wind Howl and Season 8's a best rookie, Zhou Yu's. The selection for Season 8's a best rookie wasn't as easy as Season 7. In Season 7, the best rookie was given to Sun Shang, who also became a god that season. Every other rookie that year knelt before him. Sun Shang had even been a candidate for that year's MVP. However, the MVP award wasn't given just based on his own record, but the team's performance as well. Sun Shang had been on Team Conquering Clouds, a relatively weak team. They didn't even make it to the playoffs. How could he be qualified to be that season's MVP? However, for the best rookie award, even a blind person would have given it to Sun Shang. But for Season 8, Zhao Yu's had to win it over two other candidates. It wasn't by a large margin either. Zhao Yu's didn't think about that though. To be able to win the award was enough to prove that he was an outstanding player for his first year in the competitive scene. Zhao Yu's was very excited to be able to win this award because it gave him a lot of confidence. He felt like his position on the team would certainly improve. Team Wind Howl's current situation also gave him a lot of confidence for his future. Team Wind Howl's original ace player and captain, Lin Jingyan's ability was declining due to age. In the All-Star Weekend, he was defeated by Tang Hao and his popularity fell by quite a lot. Even his own team's respect towards him worsened. Zhao Yu's only gave his captain respect on the surface, but in his heart, he never accepted it. As for the other all-star on his team, Fang Rui, his skill level wasn't low. His character Doubtful Demon was praised as the #1 thief in all of Glory. However, the problem was that Fang Rui was the representative for all those who played dirty. Besides playing dirty, he knew of no other way to play. Support for playing dirty was very one-sided. There were a lot of supporters, but there were even more haters too. Putting this kind of player as an ace player meant that the team would gain, but also lose a significant number of fans. Winning fans in this way wasn't bad for new teams. But Team Wind Howl was a fairly strong and popular team, so dancing on the edge of a knife like that was Too risky. As a result, Fang Ru's playstyle prevented him from becoming an ace player. Then who would be given the title of ace player in Team Wind Howl? Selecting the best rookie was one option. After being chosen as best rookie, Zhao Yuz imagined all sorts of things. He even dreamed that his team would buy him the #1 elementalist character, Windy Rain. He even thought that it was very likely. It was already widely known that Team 100 Blossoms had purchased the #1 brawler 3 hits for Tang Hao. Why wouldn't his team spend the money to buy him Windy Rain? Zhao Yuz was excited from his own imaginations. He thought of his future as limitless. He gave up his vacation and ran over to the game to help his team improve. He already thought of himself as the team's ace player. When there weren't any matches, he should run to the game and contribute. While the team buying Windy Rain for him was a bit excessive, Zhao Yuz wasn't overstepping his bounds. Lin Jingyin was old. Fang Rui wasn't suitable to become their ace player and pillar. Teams with someone who won best rookie would raise the best rookie to become their ace players. This line of thinking was completely reasonable. Zhao Yuz wasn't the only person thinking about it. Others agreed too, such as the guild leader West Riding Wind. When Zhao Yuz ran over to the game to help him, he regarded him as the future ace player of Team Wind Howl. This made Zhao Yuz extremely comfortable. He took the character and equipment provided by West Riding Wind and helped the team snatch a boss. As a result, he met tyrannical ambition in his first battle. Zhao Yuz treated West Riding Wind's introduction of tyrannical ambition's strength with disdain. So, what? Tyrannical ambition's elite group were just experts at a game level. Even if they were elites, how good could they be to catch a band of thieves first? Catch the leader, after killing off the other side's leader, what were they going to do afterwards? Thus, Zhao Yuz's hazy scene stood up high. He was provoking the other side, so he could kill off their leader in one go and lower the other side's morale. He clearly succeeded. As soon as Zhang Yu and him faced off, Zhang Yu was killed. Zhao Yuz became even more delighted at his achievements. How could anything in the game be difficult for the best rookie and the future ace player of Team Wind Howl?
Sam, order summary. Make sure to review.
697 best rookie. Fireball. It was a low-leveled elementalist skill. Zhang Yu didn't put it into his eyes. He simply stepped to the side and dodged it while counterattacking. Then, he saw that Hei's scene had leapt down from the stone pillar. I'll still fight you even if you've jumped down. Zhang Yu didn't hesitate. He finished casting a spell and aimed at Hazy Scene. Suddenly, he heard a boom. A pillar of fire erupted into the sky. Elementalist skill. Raging Flames. The spell didn't hit Zhang Yu's Wandering Peak, so he didn't need to dodge it. However, this Raging Flames caused him to lose sight of his target. When the pillar of fire erupted, Hazy Scene was enveloped in it. Not even a shred of his equipment could be seen. Zhang Yu was originally about to click on his target, but he suddenly didn't know where to click. Hazy Scene couldn't have just disappeared though. Zhang Yu relied on his experience to guess his general location and cast his spell. Elementalist skill, Piercing Lightning. A flash of lightning shot out from the tip of Wandering Peak's staff. The lightning crackled as it moved in a straight line, piercing through the pillar of fire and hitting the stone pillar on the other side of it. It didn't hit. Zhang Yu thought to himself. He suddenly felt like something strange was going on around him. The air surrounding Wandering Peak seemed to be emitting tiny sparks as if lightning had passed through the ground below him was becoming darker and darker. His view was becoming hazier too, as if he were in a steam cooker. F***CK. How could the experienced Zhang Yu not know what was going on? He immediately tried to cast teleport. But it didn't work. All of Wandering Peak's skill icons turned completely gray. Below his character's health and mana bar, a debuff symbol appeared. Elementalist Darkness skill, Magic Prison. No spells could be cast within the range of the prison. The prisoner wouldn't be able to use any spells for 4 seconds. 4 seconds sounded short, but Zhang Yu knew that let alone 4 seconds, 1 second was more than enough. Lightning and fire instantly enveloped Wandering Peak. Elementalist skill, Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire. Zhang Yu could see the signs of this spell being cast, but he wasn't able to dodge it because the other side had countermeasures set up to stop him. Magic Prison completely silenced his spells, using his 2 legs to run out of Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fires. Range was impossible. Under the barrage of lightning and fire, Zhang Yu could see the fire pillar from the raging flames begin to disappear. Hazy Scene stood on the ground with his staff pointed towards him. An expert, an incredible expert. Zhang Yu had the eyes to see that, even more so for someone with the same class as him. His opponent had been able to complete 2 spells during the short animation time that had taken to jump down from the pillar. Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire, Magic Prison. No, 3 spells. There was Raging Flames too. Casting while in the air wasn't anything new. As long as one had mobile cast activated, any spell could be cast while moving. The problem was that it only took the blink of an eye to jump down from that height. Let alone being able to cast 3 spells. Zhang Yu was certain that he wouldn't have even been able to cast 2 before landing. For someone to be able to do something far surpassing his abilities, what type of expert was this? Zhang Yu only had one answer, a pro player. As a club guild leader, he obviously knew that during the competitive scene summer break, pro players would sometimes hop into the game, perhaps to help the guild or perhaps to pass the time. If a pro player came out, how could he not participate in something as important as snatching wild bosses? A pro player from Team Wind Howl. Which pro player in Team Wind Howl used an Elementalist? In the blink of an eye, he recalled the name, Zhao Yu's. This very season 8's a best rookie, Team Wind Howl's Zhao Yu's. His character was called Beautiful Light. Wasn't that also an Elementalist? Zhang Yu himself was an Elementalist, so he paid more attention to pro players of the same class, even if they weren't from Team Tyranny. As a result, he was instantly able to guess his opponent's identity. Zhang Yu's heart fell. He hadn't expected Howling Heights to have a pro player participate. If a pro player came, the guild would obviously provide an account for him to use. The character would be wearing a complete set of orange equipment too. Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire was something Zhang Yu couldn't dodge. His opponent didn't show any mercy and cast several spells consecutively. By the time Heavenly Lightning dissipated, Zhang Yu was basically dead. Zhang Yu had previously attacked Misty Castle from the front lines, so the other side knew his identity and would obviously place great importance on him. Wandering Peak hadn't been at full health at the start of the fight either. Now a pro player was specially taking care of him. Run. The instant Heavenly Lightning, Earth and Fire dissipated, Zhang Yu was about to escape by using teleport to hide among his people. Before he could even cast his spell, his character could only complete a turn when lightning struck Wandering Peak from behind, piercing through his chest. F***CK, Zhang Yu cursed. Wandering Peak's health fell to 0. He died from his opponent's piercing lightning, the very same skill that Zhang Yu had initially used to counterattack. HMPH. When Wandering Peak fell, Hazy Scene didn't even glance at him as he coldly humped and headed towards a different location. Zhang Yu didn't guess wrong. The player controlling Hazy Scene was from Team Wind Howl and Season 8's a best rookie, Zhou Yu's. The selection for Season 8's a best rookie wasn't as easy as Season 7. In Season 7, the best rookie was given to Sun Shang, who also became a god that season. Every other rookie that year knelt before him. Sun Shang had even been a candidate for that year's MVP. However, the MVP award wasn't given just based on his own record, but the team's performance as well. Sun Xiang had been on team Conquering Clouds, a relatively weak team. They didn't even make it to the playoffs. How could he be qualified to be that season's MVP? However, for the Best Rookie Award, even a blind person would have given it to Sun Xiang. But for Season 8, Zhao Yuz had to win it over two other candidates. It wasn't by a large margin either. Zhao Yuz didn't think about that though. To be able to win the award was enough to prove that he was an outstanding player for his first year in the competitive scene. Zhao Yuz was very excited to be able to win this award because it gave him a lot of confidence. He felt like his position on the team would certainly improve. Team Wind Howl's current situation also gave him a lot of confidence for his future. Team Wind Howl's original ace player and captain, Lin Jingyin's ability was declining due to age. In the All-Star weekend, he was defeated by Tang Hao and his popularity fell by quite a lot. Even his own team's respect towards him worsened. Zhao Yuz only gave his captain respect on the surface, but in his heart, he never accepted it. As for the other all-star on his team, Fang Rui, his skill level wasn't low. His character Doubtful Demon was praised as the #1 thief in all of Glory. However, the problem was that Fang Rui was the representative for all those who played dirty. Besides playing dirty, he knew of no other way to play. Support for playing dirty was very one-sided. There were a lot of supporters, but there were even more haters too. Putting this kind of player as an ace player meant that the team would gain, but also lose a significant number of fans. Winning fans in this way wasn't bad for new teams. But Team Wind Howl was a fairly strong and popular team, so dancing on the edge of a knife like that was too risky. As a result, Fang Ru's playstyle prevented him from becoming an ace player. Then who would be given the title of ace player in Team Wind Howl? Selecting the best rookie was one option. After being chosen as best rookie, Zhao Yuz imagined all sorts of things. He even dreamed that his team would buy him the #1 elementalist character, Windy Rain. He even thought that it was very likely. It was already widely known that Team 100 Blossoms had purchased the #1 brawler 3 hits for Tang Hao. Why wouldn't his team spend the money to buy him Windy Rain? Zhao Yuz was excited from his own imaginations. He thought of his future as limitless. He gave up his vacation and ran over to the game to help his team improve. He already thought of himself as the team's ace player. When there weren't any matches, he should run to the game and contribute. While the team buying Windy Rain for him was a bit excessive, Zhao Yuz wasn't overstepping his bounds. Lin Jingyin was old. Fang Rui wasn't suitable to become their ace player and pillar. Teams with someone who won best rookie would raise the best rookie to become their ace players. This line of thinking was completely reasonable. Zhao Yuz wasn't the only person thinking about it. Others agreed too, such as the guild leader West Riding Wind. When Zhao Yuz ran over to the game to help him, he regarded him as the future ace player of Team Wind Howl. This made Zhao Yuz extremely comfortable. He took the character and equipment provided by West Riding Wind and helped the team snatch a boss. As a result, he met tyrannical ambition in his first battle. Zhao Yuz treated West Riding Wind's introduction of tyrannical ambition's strength with disdain. So what? Tyrannical ambition's elite group were just experts at a game level. Even if they were elites, how good could they be to catch a band of thieves first? Catch the leader, after killing off the other side's leader, what were they going to do afterwards? Thus, Zhao Yuz's hazy scene stood up high. He was provoking the other side, so he could kill off their leader in one go and lower the other side's morale. He clearly succeeded. As soon as Zhang Yu and him faced off, Zhang Yu was killed. Zhao Yuz became even more delighted at his achievements. How could anything in the game be difficult for the best rookie and the future ace player of Team Wind Howl?
safe, even if it has. You can rest easy.
697 Best Rookie. Fireball. It was a low-leveled elementalist skill. Zhang Yu didn't put it into his eyes. He simply stepped to the side and dodged it while counterattacking. Then, he saw that Hayes Scene had leapt down from the stone. 697. Heard both shouts calling him out. The tank, off tank. (698) Arrival. After tyrannical ambitions guild leader fell, the troops fell into disorder. It wasn't like no one could take over and lead the troops. However, their morale had taken a heavy hit. The other side simply lifted his hands and their guild leader disappeared. What type of expert was this? With Zhao Yu's leading the way, Howling Heights was actually able to suppress tyrannical ambition. Misty Castle saw that the situation had changed and immediately went over to help Howling Heights. They would first take revenge on tyrannical ambition and then see what to do from there. At this moment, Howling Heights guild leader, West Riding Wind, ran over to Zhao Yu's side. We've discovered people from the 4 guilds. The 4 guilds? Zhao Yu asked. The 4 guilds that the guild leader mentioned referred to the alliance formed by Yishu. Zhao Yu had obviously never of it before. Heavenly Justice, Conquering Clouds, Parade, and Radiant. West Riding Wind explained. What's so special about them? Zhao Yu didn't understand. A guild's strength was about the same as that respective team's strength of those 4 guilds. Heavenly Justice was a newcomer that would be joining next season, while the other 3 guilds were weaker teams. Why was he making such a big fuss over them? They've allied together, West Riding Wind said. So what if they've allied together? Zhao Yu really looked down at the person in front of him, who represented Team Wind Howl in the game. He saw him occasionally in the club, but he had never interacted with him before. Why was this guy so lacking? The alliance itself isn't too scary. The leader of the alliance is the truly scary one. West Riding Wind said. Who? Yi Chu. West Riding Wind said in a low voice. Yi Chu. Zhao Yu stared blankly. One autumn leaves Yi Chu. That's the one. He's started over with a new account called Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm is classless and unspecialized character. West Riding Wind introduced Yi Chu's situation in the game, but he was certain that Zhao Yu also knew about it. It had been a very hot topic this year. The best rookie of the season in front of him didn't seem like someone who stayed inside all day, never looking outside his window. Haha, Zhao Yu laughed. You're still scared of him with me here. West Riding Wind didn't know what to say for a moment. He had experienced Zhao Yu's arrogance before. Zhao Yu didn't care at all about a top force in the game like tyrannical ambition. He had the qualifications to do so, of course. A pro player's might far surpass a normal player, but this was Yi Chu, known as the Encyclopedia of Glory, with 3 championship wins under his belt, and countless other titles awarded to him. Any of these was enough to decimate a best rookie. What was best rookie? That was an award given to the best rookie of that season. Not every best rookie was like Sun Shang, who could immediately contend for the MVP title. A best rookie award was certainly something to be proud of, but Zhao Yu shouldn't be that confident. Where's Yi Chu? It's a rare opportunity to be able to receive a lesson from a senior in the game. I just don't know what his level is at after having retired for half a year. Zhao Yu was eager to fight him. He couldn't help but think of Tang Hao's junior succeeds the senior. What an incredible moment that was. Even though the loser of the match had been his team's Captain Zhao Yu's only had feelings of admiration and envy for Tang Hao. He also hoped that he could one day replicate such a beautiful scene. He had already tried looking for this type of opportunity in his matches. Now, he had found one in the game. As soon as heard that he could contend with a god, Zhao Yu's immediately got fired up. West Riding Wind was speechless at this kid's arrogance. He had been managing Howling Heights for several years. He could be considered Zhao. The problem was that even though pro players didn't have any official authority over others in the club, everyone treated them like superiors. While West Riding Wind didn't like Zhao Yu's satisfied look, it wasn't like he could order him around either. In the end, West Riding Wind felt like he shouldn't invite humiliation onto himself. He heard that Zhao Yu's didn't even listen to his team captain Lin Jingyan's words. Their people are coming closer, but we haven't seen any sight of Yi Chu. West Riding Wind reported obediently. His character is called Lord Grim. Okay, I'll wait for him here, Zhao Yu's proudly stated. You're waiting for him. Does he even F*** a king know who you are? West Riding Wind ridiculed him in his head. His mouth, on the other hand, moved in a different manner. Thank you for your hard work. And then he went over to lead his troops. There were still parts of Zhao Yu's which he appreciated. For example, Zhao Yu's didn't require him to give up any of his authority as a leader. He simply took an account and rushed to aid their troops. Of course, he didn't rule out the possibility that he might just be thinking of showing off his skills in front of everyone. Yi Shu and the others finally arrived at Dolaki Stadium because they had rushed over at full speed. And everyone had different skill levels. The troops weren't very organized upon arrival. The difference wasn't too big though, even for the small club guilds. Their elites weren't bad. In addition, Yi Shu was using a temporary account with make-do equipment, so he wasn't too far ahead of everyone else either. Dolaki Stadium wasn't a small place. It had a diameter of 40 coordinate points or 400 units. It had multiple levels too. It wasn't like modern-day stadiums with just one large open field, but rather many smaller sites separate from one another. It looked like there were streets and alleys. The monsters here were the ghosts of the ancient warriors who died in the stadium. The wild boss gladiator Beetleibus was the strongest among them. To put it plainly, this was a gathering place of undead monsters. The glory world wasn't limited to history. There were magicians, swordsmen, and even people with guns. Some cities looked like ancient cities from the past, while others looked like steel forests of the modern-day era. It was rumored that, in the next expansion, apart from levels, equipment, skills, and other necessary updates, there would also be mounts. The glory world was so vast, yet there wasn't a way to quickly move around. It was something the players often complained about. Glory would soon have such a method of transportation. Mounts were what players liked to call such transportation tools. The official name didn't use the word mounts, but simply transportation tools. According to the leaks, the transportation tools in Glory wouldn't just be limited to things that could be mounted, such as cars. Once Yi Shu and the others arrived at Dolaki Stadium, they weren't yet at their final destination. They still needed to locate the boss. They soon found the battlefield. During this time, quite a few reinforcements from Misty Castle and Howling Heights had arrived. Tyrannical ambition had paid a huge price to deal with these two guilds. Tyrannical ambition was currently in a very disadvantageous position. The gladiator Beetleibus had already fallen into Howling Heights' grasp. West Riding Wind might not like Zhao Yu's, but he had to admit that this best rookie title wasn't just for show. Zhao Yu's didn't lead any teams. He only contributed with his individual strength, yet he was still able to win a lead for Howling Heights. His attacks were difficult for the opponents to deal with, allowing their own side to smoothly realize their goals. His eyes were precise and his decisions were accurate. Even though he was up against elite players, they weren't able to defend against his attacks. Misty Castle even began helping Howling Heights deal with tyrannical ambition, but after Howling Heights firmly took control of the boss, Misty Castle suddenly realized that they were on the wrong side. Howling Heights had seized a huge lead for themselves, yet Misty Castle was still fighting tyrannical ambition. It was as if they were doing free labor for Howling Heights. Misty Castle immediately switched sides. They had initially been beaten up by tyrannical ambition. Then, they were unclear about the situation. And now, they were fighting against Howling Heights. All the guilds were here to snatch the boss but Misty Castle's showing so far made them seem like stirring shit sticks. Misty Castle appeared to have no interest in the boss, instead they only seemed to want to add fuel to the fire. What are they doing? When Yishu and the others arrived, Yishu surveyed the situation and gave Misty Castle an evaluation. Howling Heights has control over the boss. The 4 guilds leaders were mainly concerned about the boss. They were quite surprised that the boss wasn't in tyrannical ambition's hands. Apart from their 4 guilds, 3 other guilds had also arrived, but they were fewer in number. Even though they were elites from the big guilds, when they saw the troops of the other guilds, they didn't dare to make any rash movements. They were all hiding in different places where others wouldn't notice and waiting for more troops to gather. Those 3 guilds were in an intense battle. Yishu and the 4 guild troops were fairly close to the battle, but no one had time to pay attention to them. Yishu was still observing the situation, but the other 4 guilds were in a hurry to act. They were afraid that, if they waited any longer, the boss would be killed. Okay, let's make arrangements. Yishu watched for a bit before finally saying something. The 4 guild leaders immediately listened attentively. The 4 guild leaders heard the arrangements. Sicken, White Stream, and Martial Awareness lead their guild's troops and separated. Yishu's group joined up with Lulin Slash. They would be the main attackers in this battle. Charge. Yishu didn't have too many words to his troops. They would first join the battle before doing anything else. Charge. Lulin Slash shouted and took the lead. Homeward bound, ocean ahead, night tide, and thousand falling leaves followed behind him. They were in a team together. Any fight together was an opportunity for them to practice their coordination with each other. How could no one respond to their arrival? Howling Heights currently held the advantage. They were naturally afraid that Cheng Yaojin would suddenly come out while they were attacking the boss. The scouts dispatched by West Riding Wind obviously noticed the incoming attackers. Now that the 4 guilds had finally arrived, West Riding Wind and Zhao Yus began paying more attention to this side. Lord Grim, it seems like he didn't come. West Riding Wind carefully observed the incoming attackers. He didn't see anyone with that name. Though he didn't come, Zhao Yus was disappointed. Over there, Heavenly Justices, Lulin Slash. He'll be joining the Pro Alliance next season. West Riding Wind pointed out Lulin Slash. Really? Then I'll go over and teach them a lesson. Zhao Yu spoke as his hazy scene casually walked over.
Only seen her hover messages back when I was in the first expedition. Well, anyway, you best be careful on the road. There's some bad people out there. More than good, some say.
699 revive him in a bit. Zhao Yu's always sounded like he was invincible. But how could West Riding Wind let him go in alone? Against so many people, he hastily dispatched troops to assist him. Zhao Yus didn't say anything, but he clearly knew that this was common sense. He didn't stop West Riding Wind from providing helpers. If he actually thought he could stop them single-handedly, his arrogance would have truly reached the heavens. The 2 sides clashed, without exchanging any sort of pleasantries. Lulin Slash jumped up and initiated with an earth-shattering slash. In front of normal players, Lulin Slash still felt a sense of superiority. He knew his skill level was far better than those so-called elite experts, but this time, he had miscalculated. He didn't think he would be facing the Season 8 best rookie. Boom! A pillar of fire shot up into the air. Zhao uses hazy scene flicked his sleeves and cast a raging flames. This time, the spell's purpose wasn't to conceal himself, but rather to arrogantly show Lulin Slash his might. The pillar of fire enveloped Lulin Slash, but according to skill priority, raging flames lost to earth-shattering slash. Lulin Slash staggered momentarily after being hit by the pillar of fire and lost a bit of health, but he was already falling. F***CK. Lulin Slash cursed. His stunning blade was unexpectedly stopped by someone's raging flames. It made him feel like he had been disgraced. He turned his character around as he slashed downwards with his earth-shattering slash. He thought of looking for that elementalist who shot him out of the sky. The tip of his blade crashed to the ground. Cracks in the earth appeared where the tip of the blade struck. At the same time, Lulin slash found the elementalist he was looking for because the elementalist had taken the initiative to run towards him. The elementalist's jump avoided the shock wave produced by his earth-shattering slash. Lulin slash was still in the middle of his skill's animation lag. Hazy scene landed next to him along with an electric ring, shocking Lulin slash. Once lightning ring hit, Lulin slash was launched into the sky. Of all the knock-up skills, elemental power took the longest to execute. However, Lulin slash actually failed to notice it. Unable to control his body, Lulin slash was thrown into the air. Boom. Light flooded Lulin slash's screen. Hazy scene had tossed out a flame explosion at him. Not waiting for him to fall, Hazy scene flicked his hand and a shadow flew out. This was an elementalist darkness skill. Dark missile. When the shadow touched Lulin slash, it seemed to grab at him, pulling Lulin slash back up into the air. Once Lulin slash started to fall towards the ground again, he heard sounds of crackling. A frost ball flew over where Lulin slash landed. In an instant, frost iced over his screen. Electric ring, elemental power, fireball, dark missile, frost ball. In just that short amount of time, Lulin slash had been bombarded by a chain of spells. Lulin slash no longer regarded this person as just another elite player. He already knew that he had encountered an expert. Hazy scene. Lulin slash had played the game for a long time. Now, he recognized the top experts from the various guilds but had never heard this name before. His character was about to hit the ground. Lulin slash refocused and immediately used a quick recover. Surrounding him was the pitter-patter of ice and snow. Hazy scene had already cast Blizzard to surround and isolate him. Lulin slash didn't panic. He crouched down and made a move. In order to break out of this situation, one usually had to use quick moves with short cooldowns. Lulin slash decided on collapsing mountain. He leapt out of Blizzard's range towards Hazy scene. But when the tip of his sword struck, all he hit was an after image. Hazy scene had instantly teleported backwards. Lulin slash soon discovered that he was surrounded by enemies who knew how many skills were raining down on him at this moment. Lulin slash seemed to hear a snicker from the other side as if mocking him since his move had been so obvious. Lulin slash was furious. Falling into a trap was obviously bad, but he wasn't alone. Behind him was his team's cleric 1000. Falling leaves. God Yichu was also using a cleric account called Enlightened Lord today too. Even though Enlightened Lord had crappy equipment, Lulin slash didn't doubt that his skill could make up for it. With God Yichu backing him, how could he die? Lulin slash didn't think that it was possible. He also laughed in ridicule. He grabbed his sword with both hands and spun around, using a whirlwind strike to fight with the enemies that had closed in on him. The greatsword slashed through the air, creating a whirlwind. Wielding his greatsword, Lulin slash was actually able to send numerous enemies flying away. He also saw his health wavering back and forth. The clerics behind him were working hard to keep him at high health. Sure enough, he couldn't die. Lulin slash was filled with confidence. After using whirlwind slash, he targeted that hazy scene and shot forward with a colliding stab. He was about to teach this guy a lesson. Slow down. 1000 Falling Leaves hastily shouted, but it was too late. Lulin slash tore his way through the enemy ranks. The Howling Height players cut off his retreat and swallowed him up. The light from 1000 Falling Leaves' cross died down. Lulin slash had broken out of her healing range. She looked at God Yichu standing next to her and saw that he had also put his cross away. What do we do? 1000 Falling Leaves asked him. Oh, revive him in a bit, Yishu said. D*MN. 1000 Falling Leaves sent out an emoji with sweat pouring down its face. She didn't think Lulin slash would be discarded so easily. Her gaze stopped over where Lulin slash was located. God Yi Chu was already directing his troops to break through From a different side, Gladiator Vitalivis appeared. Before them, it had ash-colored skin with its hollow eyes staring at them. It held a dagger in its right hand and a bone shield in its left. The Gladiator was currently locked in intense battle with Howling Heights players. The break through their defenses surprised Howling Heights. Their guild leader and Zhao Yu's had personally went over to block them. How were their defenses broken through so easily? That night, attack. As soon as Yishu's voice fell, a white flame ignited around the knights facing Gladiator Vitalivis. Cleric skill, Sacred Fire. The annoying part about Sacred Fire wasn't the damage that it dealt, but the 3-second silence. Shu's Sacred Fire had been cast at the perfect moment too. That knight was just about to get an opportunity to use Maelstrom counterattack to return damage to Gladiator Vitalivis. All of a sudden, his shields burned and a white fire instantly covered his body. He had already finished the actions needed for Maelstrom counterattack. His shield had been ready to, when he discovered F***CK. The skill didn't activate. My skills are all grayed out. Silenced. Silence was a CC effect which stopped a character from activating skills. If a player was put into this condition, players usually said they were silenced. The knight couldn't use any of his skills. The Gladiator Vitalivis's dagger still slashed at him. Caught off guard, that knight was sent flying away. Not only did Yishu's Sacred Fire stop him from using his skills, but it also put a marker on him. Heavenly. Just as his players heard Yishu's orders and immediately bombarded that knight with their attacks. Even though the main tank was the main healing target, the healers weren't prepared for this type of sudden attack. Numerous players were focusing their attacks on the main tank. The boss didn't stop attacking either. The tank was still silenced. How could their heals be enough to keep him alive? In an instant, the knight was killed. Off tank. Howling Heights players anxiously roared. Everyone knew what happened when the main tank died. If the off tank didn't hurry up and pick up the aggro, it would be disastrous. But where was the off tank? Their off tank had died too. Who knew when, but a brawler and a battle mage without any guild tags were currently beating up their off tank. Anyone who could be a tank had strong endurance. But the problem wasn't whether the off tank would die or not. Howling Heights needed someone to hurry up and quickly control the aggro, but their off tank was being pummeled into the ground. Everyone knew, not good. Third tank. The leader shouted, but the third tank wasn't ready. He was like everyone else and hadn't noticed that the off tank was out of commission. He wanted to hurry and cast a provoke, but he was too late. After Gladiator Vitalivis killed off the tank, it spun around with a shining cut. This low-leveled skill was extremely powerful when used by the boss. The shining cut looked as if it could slice apart the skies. Quick and fierce. No one was prepared. The shining cut passed and instantly removed 3 characters from the fight. 3 other characters had dropped to critical health and immediately ran away. Level 70 wild bosses were the most powerful monsters in glory. Instantly killing a player wasn't anything special. The third tank's provoke was finally used, but he had taunted too many attacks. Apart from Gladiator Vitalivis's attack, Heavenly Justice had focused their attacks on him. The instant that the third tank died, he was at a loss. Did I make a mistake? I used a single target provoke and not an AoE roar. Why did all of those Heavenly Justice players attack me? Fourth tank. 2 voices shouted at the same time. F***CK. The person leading Howling Heights attack against the boss hastily called the 4th tank over. But their enemies called it out at the exact same time and slaughtered their 4th tank. Stop them. Stop them. The leader had no way of retaining. They had to kill them off first. Heights' 4th tank was panicking when he heard both shouts calling him out. The tank, good option, so when he heard both sides yell out 4th tank, he decisively withdrew. His actions didn't incite any criticism. Peace must be maintained at home before foreign aggression could be resisted. The internal conflict between players hadn't been resolved yet. How could they worry about the boss the leader ordered the Howling Height players to block Heavenly Justice. At the same time, he urgently notified their guild leader, West Riding Wind, about their circumstances. West Ridingly confident that he would be safe, so he had decided to charge into the enemy ranks with a colliding stab, but his health bar never increased. He wanted to show off his might and take revenge on Hazy Scene. When he quickly realized that something wasn't right, he soon figured out the issue. It was because he had rushed in too quickly. Lulin/ immediately tried to retreat, but it was already too late. How could Howling Heights let him go just like that? The guild leader tag floated above his head. Howling Heights would do everything they could to kill him. Howling Heights originally thought that the other side would try and rescue him, but the other side unexpectedly ignored him and threw their guild leader aside. West Riding Wind wasn't just here for fun like Zhao Yu's was. He was very startled by this unusual move. Could he have been bait? West Riding Wind couldn't help but think. After killing Lulin/West Riding Wind received a message saying that there was an Wind was gloomy. Directly using a guild leader as bait to lure their attention was too crazy. But how much time could Lulin/stall for? In just that short amount of time, the other side was able to make a complete mess out of the boss's side. These enemies were very difficult to deal with. Even though Lord Grimm still hadn't been spotted, there was always a shadow in West Riding Wind's heart. Their big guilds had been tussled around by Lord Grimm from the start of the 10th server, all the way to the Heavenly Domain. West Riding Wind knew that the alliance had been created by Lord Grimm and was worried that this alliance would be stronger than the three great guilds. How could the three great guilds compare to God Yichu? Quickly, West Riding Wind hastily rushed back to save the situation. He also looked for Zhao Yu's Hazy Scene. Maybe Yichu is among them. Fortunately, he had a pro player helping him out, which put West Riding Wind at ease. Oh, really? Zhao Yu's initially heard that Yichu wasn't there, so he had been disappointed. Now that he heard that Yichu might be there, he immediately became spirited again. This guy was clearly someone who liked to pursue big-name targets such as Tyrannical Ambitions Guild Leader and Heavenly Justice's Guild Leader. However, none of those could compare to Yichu. Where? Zhao Yu's impatiently asked. We still haven't seen Lord Grimm, but he might be using an alternate account. West Riding Wind didn't have proof, but he had a feeling that the other side's offense was too abnormal. Yichu leading them would be the only explanation. Okay, let me pick him out, Zhao Yu said haughtily. This time, West Riding Wind didn't feel too disgusted. He was actually feeling quite gratified. He really needed someone like this best rookie by his side right now. West Riding Wind quickly led his troops back to the boss's location. They had been closed by the entire time, but by the time he arrived, the situation with the boss had already changed. The gladiator Beetlevis was no longer in the grasp of Howling Heights. Heavenly Justice was now leading the boss around by its nose. How did this happen? West Riding Wind was shocked. It had been a while since they snatched the boss away from Tyrannical Ambition. Pulling back the boss's aggro so quickly shouldn't be possible. Yet how did Heavenly Justice do it? West Riding Wind looked more carefully. He discovered that Heavenly Justice hadn't taken the boss just yet. They were relying on skills like Provoke and Roar to forcefully taunt the gladiator Beetlevis into attack them. The tank responsible for the boss was following gladiator Beetlevis along the entire time, attacking it non-stop. West Riding Wind knew that this tank was establishing aggro. Once the boss turned towards this knight, Heavenly Justice would have full control over the boss. West Riding Wind saw through the situation in a single moment. He didn't think that the person in charge of this side, nor any of the elite players, wouldn't be able to see through it. When he looked more closely, he saw that the players from Howling Heights recognized the issue and were trying to snatch it back, but there didn't seem to be any effect. Charging at the enemies wasn't enough to defeat them, and when their knights used Provoke or Roar, it seemed to be completely useless, leaving the knights puzzled. It was their first time experiencing such a situation, which required such precision and timing. How could they know that Yishu was leading? Heavenly Justice paying attention to their usages of provoke and roar, and stopping the effects from working. West Riding Wind was worried. Zhao Yuz didn't care about any of that though. He warped a few times, then jumped onto another very high stone pillar. He shouted loudly, "Yi Chu, come out and fight me." He also typed it out in words too. Everyone on the scene saw it. West Riding Wind immediately searched Heavenly Justice's troops. He also wanted to know where Yi Chu was hiding. With a god like Yi Chu leading them, someone like Lulin Slash was worthless. West Riding Wind thought in this way. Yi Chu, come out and fight me. Yi Chu, come out and fight me. Zhao Yuz shouted non-stop. The messages in chat kept on being spammed. Everyone saw it, and some people wanted to go out to shut that guy up. Yi Shu kept on commanding the troops while doing his job. As a cleric, next to him, Ocean ahead was casting spells. Seeing that God Yi Chu was very busy, he couldn't help but remind him, someone is challenging you to a fight. Zhao Yuz was too arrogant. Even West Riding Wind felt uncomfortable, let alone the enemies. Everyone wanted to see this guy fall, and this guy didn't seem to know what was good for him and kept challenging God Yi Chu to a fight. Ocean ahead felt like this punk needed to hurry up and die. Yi Shu nodded. To the front, berserkers move to the vanguard. Paladins pressure the rear. Knights, don't be negligent. Don't rely too much on the clerics. Thieves keep placing traps on the ground along our retreat path. Mages don't just think about dealing damage. Use more crowd control skills. Yi Shu gave a simple reply and then continued commanding the troops. At the same, enlightened Lord's cross kept flashing, healing others. Someone's calling you out. On the other side, 1,000 falling leaves also came over to remind him. We're here to kill a boss. Ignore that lunatic and concentrate. Yi Shu berated. When he said this, there just happened to not be any huge explosions from skills. Yi Shu didn't lower his voice either and shouted it out like an order. His voice seemed to echo throughout the entire battlefield. At the very least, many people heard it. Was calling a lunatic. At this moment, everyone's eyes turned to look at Hazy Scene, who was still flooding the chat with the same message and shouting from up high. The battlefield suddenly seemed to become silent. There was a reason for this. The players from Howling Heights all knew that this person was this season's best rookie and their team's rising star, Zhao Yuz, but now he had been called a lunatic. It was quite a harsh remark. Heavenly Justice obviously didn't know who this person was. They thought he was some idiot who didn't know his place. To think that he would actually challenge God Yi Chu. Look, Yi Chu doesn't give two farts about you. As for Zhao Yuz, he heard these words loud and clear. He was furious. Pro players truly weren't ordinary. He was able to tell the direction in which the voice had come from. When he looked in that direction, he could see Yishu's enlightened lord standing out. Everyone had a guild tag, except for him. In a chaotic battle, no one would take notice, but Zhao Yuz was specifically looking for anything abnormal, so he immediately noticed it. Zhao Yuz found his target, then made his move. Hazy Scene pointed his staff at him and cast a piercing lightning. This skill had a quick cast time and a fast missile speed. Very few normal players had the ability to dodge it. When the lightning shot out, Zhao Yuz saw that Enlightened Lord didn't seem to move. He just seemed to stand there. He was happy that the attack would hit, but if it hit so easily, maybe this person really wasn't Yi Chu. Even if he had retired. Because of his age, he should still be more skilled than normal players. Zhao Yuz was somewhat disappointed, but then Enlightened Lord suddenly turned his body. The cross in his hands flashed and a healing light showered towards somewhere else. At the same time, the lightning passed through him and hit the ground. No way. Zhao Yuz thought it was a coincidence at first. Enlightened Lord had turned around and cast a spell on his target. Didn't seem like a dodging motion, but he did dodge it. If it wasn't a coincidence. Zhao Yuz thought to himself. Hazy Scene activated. Mobile cast and leapt down from the stone pillar. Similar to when he had fought against Zhang Yu's Wandering Peak.
pleasant journey.
Be careful out there.
701 elementalist charged. Raging flames. A pillar of fire shot up from beneath the stone pillar and enveloped